to move food through it. Either way, that is what metabolism is. It's chemical reactions in the body. If you add them all up together, the term is metabolism. Now, catabolic reactions. So anabolic means it builds, and you might have heard of anabolic steroids, and there are catabolic reactions, which mean exergonic and are endergonic. Now, an exergonic reaction means you put a little bit of energy in, and you get a lot out of it. So an example of that type of reaction is you get a match, and you light a fire. That fire is going to burn for ages. It's going to send out a lot of energy over a long period of time. So that's the first type. And the graph on the left-hand side shows, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack it. And it's going to suck so much heat out of the area around it, it's going to take a lot away from us. So it's going to put in a lot of heat into itself. And then the outcome of that taking a lot of heat will be a little bit of ice. Okay, so a lot went in, a lot of heat went in, made it cold, and then it put a little bit of ice. So reduction is gaining. That is how we can remember those two reactions. So that was just a little bit of a summary. There are three types of reaction topics we have in the body. The first one is about creating and destroying. So we have an anabolic and a catabolic reaction. The next one is about the transfer of energy. So the match and the fire, the ice pack and the ice. And then the final one is our oxidation reduction. So electrons being transferred from one place to another place. Now, what you'll also notice with the oxidation reduction is I have to have both pictures at the same time. So we can turn it into movement. This is an energy transfer. We're not making the energy, we need it from the food. So that is the transition we're going to do. We need food to make energy. So I decided to put up a tasty Indian meat. Very interesting what happens when you color code a word. Carbo, hydrate. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. That is what makes a carbohydrate. Chemically, that's why it's called that. Every carbohydrate is made up of those three things. That's where it gets its name. Now in the body, we've got different types of carbohydrates. There's a lot, but I'm just going to simplify it. One thing I will need to say though is at the bottom, we can categorize these carbohydrates into singles, doubles, and many. So mono, di, and polysaccharides. It's saying how many pieces there are to the puzzle. Is there one piece, is there two pieces, or is there many? So some of the objects in the body will be simple ones, and others could be twos or threes. We're not going to go through every single one. It turns out that there are two key sugars, which is carbohydrate. You can sub in the word sugar. So in summary, these two, because I don't know where you cut out. Glucose is a simple, moving transportation sugar, and glycogen is our storage sugar. And the question I posed was, why would you even have a storage one if you can't use it? And the analogy I have for you is the difference between an inflatable raft, which is inflated, and if you wanted to stack mine up and you're explaining what all of those are, I just wanted you to know that they fall into those categories. So if you hear those terms before, you go, oh, okay, that's a fat. I reckon the interesting one there is going steroids. Like how's, I've heard of anabolic steroids for muscle building, but relationship between them. So conveniently, nice and simple. If I've got amino acids, these individual pieces, and I combine them together, that's making a protein. That's it. So the individual part, this molecule will give us the energy that we need to perform exercise. And it's the way that we produce this energy molecule that gives us the understanding of our energy systems. And someone who can efficiently produce it with their energy systems, and we can do everything we want, we can buy whatever we want with Australian dollars, that is our currency. In the body, Australian dollars do nothing. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, are our dollars. We need the before is the third point on there. You may know that ATP has an adenosine in blue. You may also know that it has a phosphate, or 3 phosphates in green. But what you might not know, may or may not know, is the most important part of the molecule are the red lines. That's actually the only thing that matters. Now, when I do release that bond, that phosphate's going to go away, and then I'm going to be left with ADP. So adenosine, diphosphate, 2-phosphate. Now, the thing about this is, I get ADP and some energy and some phosphate, I'll put them together. How about when I want to break them down? So let's say I've got an ATP and I want to use it for exercise. Okay, it's sitting there. Now it's just sitting there. It's not going to do anything. I need an enzyme. It will not react until I put this enzyme in. You won't get into the club unless you know the bouncer. PC is sitting inside your muscles. And what I'm going to use PC for is, it's got a bond in it. It's got energy. Right there, ready. But I don't care about phosphocreatine. I care about ATP. And I want my bond to be rebuilt in ATP. It's going to chop that bond in half. And that energy is going to get leaked out. Guess what I'm going to use that energy for? It's going to chop that bond in half. And that energy is going to get leaked out. Guess what I'm going to use that energy for? Put ATP back together. That's all I need. I'm going to take the energy from PC. I'm going to use that energy and I'm going to put my ATP back together. That's seconds worth of this system to work. Doesn't seem like much, but if you're Usain Bolt and you can do a 100-meter sprint in less than 10 seconds, Usain Bolt would only need this system to be able to do the maximum production of energy for less than 10 seconds. Great. So I've got my ATP PC system. It can last for 10 seconds, which is made up of 2 and 8. 2 seconds stored, 8 seconds, synthesized ATP because I broke down PC. Let's go right now. So I need someone else to step in. The energy system that will step in is called the glycolytic system. You might know it, it's got a nickname, the lactic acid system. That's just a nickname. The glycolytic system is its actual physiological name. Now, for me to use the glycolytic system, I don't need oxygen, but what I do need to do is use my glucose or glycogen stores. Lysis, we say glycolysis, but glycolysis means to destroy glycogen, to destroy glucose. So it's telling you what it wants to do. I'm going to destroy glucose without oxygen to give you energy. So what happens in here? Well, I've got enough glucose and glycogen stored and glucose in my blood sugar. There's one path where it does and there's one path where it doesn't. So what's the factor? It's whether we have enough oxygen. So let's say I'm at rest right now. I've got plenty of oxygen. I've got leftover oxygen. I'm chilling. So if my body, if I decided, oh, I'm going to start up this system, the glycolytic system, it would have enough oxygen to get rid of all that pyruvate. Just get rid of it for me. Awesome. No negative output. The system works. There's nothing making a negative thing occurring. Great. But that's not what happens when we exercise at high intensity. When we exercise at high intensity, we don't have any oxygen left available to clear out all the pyruvate, and there's something negative that happens if we don't get rid of pyruvate. This week in the lab, we'll do exactly that, but instead of going for a sprint, you'll be on a bike to see how long you can go, how hard for. So one of our tests this week, 30 seconds all out. What we're going to see is the first 10 seconds shouldn't have any impact. You've got ATP, PC, no energy loss. As you move into the glycolytic, the beginning will be fine. There's no lactic acid. But the longer you go into that 20 seconds, the more and more lactic acid will be produced. So that is the negative of the glycolytic system. If you push it to maximum intensity, it produces too much lactate, and too much lactate in your muscles shuts them down. You cannot go against them. You cannot push through them. You can't say, come on, keep going. Chemically, your muscles will not fire.